Please sit down. Nova Southeastern University, the 45th Annual Commencement Exercises. Greetings. The trustees, president, administration, and faculty of Nova Southeastern University bid you welcome to this joyous celebration for the conferral of degrees upon those whom the university honors for learning and diligence, and upon those whom the university charges to turn scholarship into service. Will the audience please rise and join the faculty and graduates in the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner? You will find the words in the front of the program. Please sit down. It is an honor and a pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Ralph Rogers, Provost and Executive Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dr. Rogers.
Thank you. We welcome all of you who have joined us today to honor the members of the class of 2015. Thank you for attending the observance of the 2015 Undergraduate Commencement Ceremony of Nova Southeastern University. I would like to thank our faculty marshals who have led the candidates into the arena and the outstanding student honorees who carried in the banners. At this time, I would like to recognize the members of the Nova Southeastern University Board of Trustees who are with us today on the platform. Trustee Dr. Sylvia Flores, today's Grand Marshal. I would like to introduce Dr. George Hamberry, President and Chief Executive Officer of Nova Southeastern University. And Ms. Jacqueline Travisano, Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer. Also assisting us today for the hearing impaired is Mr. William Stanton and Mrs. Jen Sinderak from the Nationwide Interpreter Resource Incorporated. I would like now to introduce Dr. Brad Williams, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean for the College of Undergraduate Studies. Dr. Ron Chennai, Interim Dean for the Abraham S. Fischler School of Education. Dr. Stanley Wilson, Dean of the College of Healthcare Sciences. Dr. Marcella Rutherford, Dean of the College of Nursing. Dr. Don Rosenberg, Dean of the Farquhar College of Arts and Sciences. Dr. J. Preston Jones, Dean for the H. Wayne Huizenga School of Business and Entrepreneurship. Dr. Kimberly Durham, Dean of the Institute for the Study of Human Service, Health, and Justice. Thank you. A university becomes great not because of buildings or athletic accomplishments, but because it develops an outstanding student body through the guidance of their faculty. Also sitting on the stage behind me today and the first rows in front of the stage are the distinguished members of our faculty. To receive the deserved recognition of the graduates you have educated and inspired, as well as the thanks of their families and friends, will my talented and dedicated colleagues please rise. Thank you. To formally open these commencement exercises, I am privileged to ask President George Hamberry to come forward.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. To the members of the Board of Trustees, to our guest speaker, Dean of NSU's College of Osteopathic Medicine, Dr. Elaine Wallace, and to all here who have come to publicly witness the achievement of the graduates here, welcome to NSU. As I said earlier at the commencement at 10 o'clock this morning, this year in the commencement season, we will hold all of our commencements on the NSU campus here in Davie, Fort Lauderdale. And as such, we are beginning a tradition. In all the other previous commencements, we've held them at the BB&T Center, which hadn't given the opportunity for the parents and loved ones to see that we actually have a campus. We have 7 regional campuses, but not too often do you get to come to this particular campus and see the facilities that are here. The students have been here, but the parents and loved ones and friends have not. So we're beginning a tradition. And this year we will award about 7,500 degrees. But we're not here to talk about tradition. We're here to talk about the 370 graduates that are sitting in this audience this afternoon. Our graduates during this commencement season range from all ages, which is an indication you're never too old or too young to receive a degree. Our oldest graduate this year is 63 years old. And our youngest graduate is 19. So regardless of the age, there is no limit to what you can achieve, regardless of how old or how young. But all of you stand out as exemplary students and graduates of NSU. And as a group, we reach out globally. Not only here in Florida, we have students from all of the states in the nation: New Jersey, North Carolina, Colorado, Washington, countries such as Spain, Venezuela, Angola, China, the Philippines. And in fact, this year's NSU's graduating class hails from more than 45 nations around the world. One thing that all of you held common when you first started your academic mission here at NSU, you had limitless hope and ambition, but you had very little idea of what actually lay ahead for you in your educational mission. Today, things are much, much different. You've become part of NSU. You are part of the Sharks of NSU. And now you're armed with knowledge, with new degrees, as you walk through the portals and the doors when you leave here this afternoon. But you still have very little idea of what actually lies in store for you for the years ahead. You'll find that this combination of anticipation and uncertainty is a normal part of any significant transition in life. But while this notion may be scary and intimidating when you first came to NSU, this next transition represents an amazing possibilities for you, most of which you may never have yet imagined. I know it's very much for you to expect that an individual from my generation would say to your generation, you just can't imagine the opportunities before you. But it's true. Even during the period of time that you've been coming to NSU, inventions have been made, ideas have been created and spun. And I'm sure many of you here are tweeting as we even communicate with you today. And some of the younger graduates are surprised I even know how to pronounce tweet or hashtag. We've set up hashtag NSU success or hashtag President Hanbury is awesome. Now, we really don't have a hashtag President Hanbury is awesome, but we have set up hashtag NSU success. Keep that hashtag, and as you go through the remaining of your years, post your successes within 140 characters or less. Your accomplishments, things that are happening in your life. We definitely would like to share with you your successes as you go forward. And you certainly never, ever expected some of the things that you faced and challenges that you've met. You could not have come where you are today without some type of leadership and mentorship from someone else. And it's hope that as you receive this degree and you go forward, you do one of our core principles and continue to exercise that: community, giving back. The individuals that the provost recommended to stand earlier are the ones that I would like to stand again, because it was through their leadership, their knowledge, which has been passed on to you, and their giving back to you and the community that hopefully have helped you to unleash your potential to be a leader and to move forward. So would the faculty once again be recognized by the graduates of this university and this commencement this evening? So the beauty of leadership is really by example. Leadership is a language that anyone can speak. The key to showing leadership is doing what you're capable of doing and doing it as well as you can. That is leadership by example. You see, in my mind, you are successful. Every graduate here today is already successful. Because success is a progressive realization of a worthy goal. And once that goal has been established, another worthy goal needs to take its place. So as long as you live and you are progressively realizing and approaching a worthy goal, you may not yet to have achieved it, but you will be successful. Today, however, you have achieved that worthy goal. Progressive realization of a worthy goal. So each and every one of the graduates that will come across this stage today are already successful. You know, you can't lead unless you know where you're going. And as that great philosopher, Yogi Berra, said, if you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else. But you are not winding up someplace else. You're winding up here at NSU. So always keep your aim above your reach, and then add about 10% more, and continue that progressive realization of that worthy goal. But always lead yourself and achieve your personal dreams and ambitions. So the day is a public recognition of your accomplishment of that worthy goal. And you have been successful. Today is a wonderful day, a beautiful day as everyone approached. It's the beginning of Mother's Day weekend. How many of you had mothers out there? Hi. And I presume you've had grandmothers and great-grandmothers. Well, graduates, let's thank the mothers, the grandmothers, and the great-grandmothers who've helped you along the way. And let's not forget the dads either. Let's thank the dads and the granddads and the great-granddads. As a matter of fact, would all of the family of the graduates please stand and let the graduates thank them. You know, interesting enough, sometimes life gets in the way and you may not be able to pursue the education and you have to delay it. Well, we have several mothers, but tonight we have a mother and son graduating. Karen Perez and her son Richard are getting but it shows another core value that this university has: opportunity. Certainly, it's something that I congratulate both Karen and Richard in their accomplishment of that progressive realization. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers here at NSU. Toward that effort, You are now joining over 160,000 students and graduates who preceded you. You are now, or will be shortly, alumni. I hope that as this commencement takes you further and out of NSU, you will not forget NSU. And as I reminded you of two core values, opportunity and community, I want to remind you of a third core value, and one that regardless of what happens in the future, you will take with you through your remaining years: integrity. You don't have to have a lot of wealth, a big job, or a big title to be successful. But you do have to have integrity. So I hope that you will live with the admonition that Shakespeare gave to Polonius to give to his son Laertes: "This above all, to thine own self be true. And it must follow as the night to day, thou canst not be false to any man." You see, integrity is like a mirror. Once broken, it is almost impossible to repair or to replace. So keep your aim above your reach. Continue to establish those worthy goals. And most of all, maintain your integrity. It's your most precious asset. Congratulations, fins up, and go Sharks! And now I'd like for Dean Williams to please come forward and talk about the Outstanding Achievement Award recipients.
Good afternoon. Every year, the academic units recognize graduating seniors to receive an Outstanding Achievement Award. The recipients of this award exemplify outstanding academic achievement and have demonstrated evidence of contributions to the university and to the community at large. Their photos and short biographies are highlighted toward the back of the commencement program book. Will the recipients of the Outstanding Achievement Awards please come forward when your name is called? The following students were selected by the Abraham S. Fischler School of Education for their outstanding academic achievement. Please come forward and be acknowledged for your achievement from Dr. Shania as your name is read. I ask that the audience hold all applause until all names are read. Ashley Anderson Wood. Thank you, Dr. Shania. The following student was selected by the College of Healthcare Sciences for her outstanding academic achievement. Please come forward and be acknowledged for your achievement from Dean Wilson as your name is read. For the Respiratory Therapy Program, Maureen Lintner. And Jose Vicente Morales. For the General and Vascular Sonography program, Charlotte Nolan. Thank you, Dean Wilson. The following students were selected by the College of Nursing for their outstanding academic achievement. Please come forward and be acknowledged for your achievement from Dean Rutherford when your name is read. For the entry-level program, Taylor Ann Grace. Brandon Young. For the RN to BSN program, Rita Tappa. And Lauren Lee London Weaver. Thank you, Dean Rutherford. The following students were selected by the Institute for the Study of Human Service, Health, and Justice for their outstanding academic achievement. Please come forward and be acknowledged for your achievement from Dean Durham when your name is read. Carol Willis Cohen. Thank you, Dean Durham. Now, please join me in acknowledging all the recipients of the Outstanding Student Awards. It is now my pleasure to introduce Andrea Naomi Gore, class of 2015. Andrea is a psychology major in the Farquhar College of Arts and Sciences and has been asked to speak on behalf of the graduating class.
Welcome, President Hanbury, administrators, faculty, staff, family, friends, and congratulations to the Nova Southeastern University class of 2015. As we celebrate today with our families, friends, and loved ones, we stand empowered. Empowered by our accomplishments, empowered by the wealth of opportunity our education has afforded us, empowered by the chance to make a difference. Some of us may have a clearly envisioned path for tomorrow, where others may still be finding their way. For those of you who have made it this far, but still do not know your path, do not be discouraged. Finding yourself, your identity, is not something you can simply Google. Believe me, I've tried. The concept of identity seems so complex. It exists within all of us. Our families, friends, experience, cultures all contribute to it. Identity is the qualities, beliefs, and values which makes each and every one of us exceptionally unique. It is how you define yourself. My journey to self-discovery has been a long one and still continues today. I'm sure many of you can think back to your childhood, remember modeling yourself after someone you admired. My older cousin Tianya has always been that person for me. As a little girl, I wanted to be just like Tianya. Although we were years apart, we were both born on the 4th of July, which was always something special to me. I thought she was the epitome of cool. If you thought your cousin was cool, my cousin was 10 times cooler than that. As a high school senior, I already knew which college I wanted to attend and what my major was going to be. I was going to be a registered nurse, just like my older cousin. I simply disregarded the fact that blood and needles make me nauseous, and I'm not very good at biology, or any science for that matter. Thankfully, we have so many graduates from the nursing college today. I decided to take a break from school. I realized I needed time to think about what I wanted to do with my life. Something I have learned is when you experience moments in your life where you feel lost or you have reached your breaking point, it can end up being the best thing that has ever happened to you. Breaking points are sometimes necessary to force you to change, to grow, and to find your true identity. So where do you turn when you need the answers to life's toughest questions? YouTube. Yes, I said YouTube. I began searching online and watching motivational speakers. I came across a clip where Dennis Waitley said, "Don't dwell on what went wrong. Instead, focus on what to do next. Spend your energies moving forward toward finding your answer." I began to search for a university whose core values and vision was similar to my own. I stumbled upon Nova Southeastern University, and I can honestly say it changed my life for the better. I'm a little thirsty, sorry. I stumbled upon Nova Southeastern University, and I can honestly say it changed my life for the better. Since beginning my collegiate journey, I have grown as a person. I've learned to push myself in ways I never thought imaginable. I've been given amazing opportunities like attending the World Leaders Conference and speaking at our commencement ceremony today. There are so many reasons why I love attending Nova Southeastern University, while I am proud to be a shark. Just looking at the crowd, I see such a beautiful array of people. One of my favorite things about Nova Southeastern University is the diversity. Although our hometowns may be far apart and we represent cultures from all around the world, it is the NSU experience which unites us. Like our student body, our university mascot, the Mako shark, is found all over the world. They are also the fastest species of sharks. But the most interesting thing about our mascot, it is that it cannot swim backwards. As NSU sharks, it is not in our identity to regress. It is our identity to move forward, to excel. Doesn't it feel good to be a shark? I want you to always remember, it is natural to yearn for a sense of identity. We can admire the positive qualities of others, but do not replicate them. Instead, create your own path to success. We will make mistakes and experience moments where we begin to question our purpose. But I believe that each and every one of us has the power within us to overcome anything and any obstacle that stands in our way. Today is the very beginning of bigger and better things to come. Be proud of all you have accomplished. Be proud of who you are. Be proud to be a Nova Southeastern University shark, and be proud to be a graduate of the class of 2015. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Elaine Wallace, who will be addressing us today. Dr. Wallace was appointed Dean of NSU's College of Osteopathic Medicine in January of 2015. She has served in various capacities at the college during the last 15 years. An active scholar and researcher, with a distinguished public record, Dr. Wallace has received numerous awards and recognitions for her mentorship, teaching excellence, and student engagement. It is with great pleasure that I welcome Dr. Elaine Wallace as our commencement speaker this afternoon. Dr. Wallace.
President Hanbury, Mrs. Trevisano, Provost Rogers, Dr. Flores, distinguished faculty and administration, parents and friends, and the honorable graduating class of 2015. I thank you for this great honor that you have bestowed upon me in allowing me to speak to you as you sit there on this most celebrated day. Commencement ceremonies have existed for nearly 6,000 years. They originated in Oxford, England in 1432, and the first of the American commencement ceremonies was the Harvard class of 1642. The ceremony has always been an annual festival honoring the joy of learning and marking the transition in which scholars gained passage from the world of being students into the fellowship of teachers originally, and now into many professions. Their commencement was slightly different than yours. Their commencement was a day-long event in which speeches were given in Latin and in Hebrew and in Greek, and philosophical debates occurred. And during their commencement ceremonies, the commencers or graduates were subjected to oral examinations, testing them on what they had learned during their 4 or 5 or 6 years at their undergraduate college. Additionally, these celebrations were times of great ceremony, not only for the students, but for the families and the administration as well. Traditionally, the commencement ceremony was divided in 2 halves, with a luncheon hosted by the school president for the governing board, the faculty, returning graduate, and distinguished guests. There the educators would commune, and they would pray, and they would eat great food, and they would raise a glass that was called the Grace Cup, or the Loving Cup, in celebration of completing another year of educating. As a matter of fact, the passage of that cup seemed to be the most important part of the ceremony for the administration, because in 1703 it was recorded that they drank 14 barrels of beer during their graduation luncheon. And in 1704 they drank 18 barrels of wine. I am sure that it was the passage of this Grace Cup that helped develop the format and the focus of those early commencements, because in 1792, that Harvard administration brought a live elephant in from Providence, Rhode Island, and that elephant was adorned and walked in the procession with the graduates, accompanied by people dressed as mermaids, as mummies, and an array of 2-headed calves. So look what you're in for. You thought that you were just here to shake John Chamberry's hand. When one is asked to deliver a commencement speech, here is the progress that one and the process that one goes through. One is humbled by the great honor. One takes pride in the fact that one has achieved the status in one's career to even be considered as a commencement speaker. Then the pride and the elation give way to the sheer terror of what you have agreed to do. I too followed this process as I prepared this speech. This all occurred before I even knew about the elephant or the mermaids or the 2-headed calves. As I began to collect my thoughts for this presentation, I decided I would review some of the greatest commencement speeches of all time. And so I sat down one evening and I listened to Eleanor Roosevelt. The future believes in those who believe their dreams. To Bill Gates, don't let complexities stop you. Be activists. Take on the big inequities. It will be one of the greatest experiences of your life. Toni Morrison, Be Your Own Story. General Colin Powell, Always Have a Purpose in Life that is beyond position and power. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, despite difficulties, always keep optimism. You can overcome difficulties, but the mental attitude of optimism will give you inner strength and courage, because the very purpose of life is happiness. John Kennedy, the great enemy of truth is not the lie, but the myth, persistent and persuasive and unrealistic. Too often we hold fast to the cliches of our forebears. Mythology distracts us everywhere. And Stephen Jobs, your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Have the courage to follow your heart and your intuition. I listened to Dwight D. Eisenhower and Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Jodie Foster and Barack Obama and Oprah Winfrey, Ronald Reagan, Madeleine Albright, and Theodore Roosevelt. And that evening, I listened to 22 commencement speeches. And at about 11:30 at night, I realized it was time to stop when I found myself listening to the 2013 commencement speech by Sean P. Diddy Combs. So I went to bed that evening with this multitude of inspirational words and wisdom racing through my dreams. And when I awoke the next morning, I found out that I was no closer to formulating what I wanted to say to you than when I began the task the evening before. And so I did what I often do when I need to solidify my thoughts. I went to my muse. My muse is this beautiful, wonderful child that the universe has entrusted to me, my 7-year-old daughter, Raven. Raven is a gifted and unique and special child. For those of you who are Bible scholars, you will remember on the first day of the 6 days during which God created the world, God created the light. What you may not know is that in the Native American culture, God asked the raven to fly into the darkness and to bring back that light. And so it is that my child is named Raven in the Native American tradition for the bearer of the light. The raven is also the bird of mystery and magic, and that is God's gift to me, this soul who is both my student and my teacher. So on the morning after my immersion in commencement speeches, I was driving this wonderful little soul to school, and I said, Raven, I need your help. And she said, yes, Mama, what can I do for you? And I said, I've been very honored in having been asked to deliver the speech to graduates at Nova Southeastern University, and I need your help in coming up with what to say. And she said, well, you know, Mama, I go to Nova, so I think that you can tell the graduates that I know what I'm talking about. So I asked Raven, what do you think makes Nova a great school? And Raven said, Nova is a great school because it has great teachers. And they teach you wonderful things, like about crustaceans. And they encourage you to help other people, like when I was a student and I helped some other students learn how to read. And Nova helps you find a dream and helps you to follow that dream. And we have pizza on Fridays. And then she added, and you know, Mama, Nova has a great president. Now, I must digress and tell you that Raven has been somewhat obsessed with President Hanbury ever since she found out that George Washington had wooden teeth. At the age of 3, I believe that she thought wooden teeth was a prerequisite of anyone who held a presidency. And I remember the day right here in the Taft Center when President Hanbury and my daughter and I happened to meet as we were entering the arena to watch a women's basketball game. Raven looks up at George Hanbury with those big brown eyes and asks him, "President Hanbury, do you have wooden teeth?" Now, of course, George knew nothing about the context of this question. But being the gracious man that he is, he leaned down and patted her on the head, and he chuckled. But I could see that he was thinking, what a strange little child this is. And I could see him also making a personal note, never let Wallace become the dean of the College of Osteopathic Medicine. 2 years later, Raven learned that George Washington's teeth were not actually made of wood, but made out of hippopotamus bone. But fearful of the new question that she is dying to ask him, I have kept her away from George ever since. But back from the digression to what makes NSU great. So I asked my sagacious child, why do you think that President Hanbury is a great leader of NSU? And she said, he is kind, and he is a very good speaker, and he helps all of us to reach our dreams, and he's not too bossy. And like President Obama, he is very handsome. Notably, she did not say anything about his hippopotamus teeth. I then asked her if she had the opportunity to speak to you, the class of 2015, what would she say? And she said, tell them don't sweat the small stuff, right, Mama? And I said, right, Raven. So having related to you my homework on the wisdom of other great thinkers, I am not sure my personal experiences will have anything impressive to offer you. But nonetheless, I am going to recount to you 3 very short stories that have shaped my path and have been the underpinnings of the successes that I have had in my career. Excuse me. The first story has to do with my very first experience as a medical student in examining a patient at the hospital. In medical school, it is the tradition that students are assigned to do the initial histories and physicals. And I was excited as I received my first assignment until I realized that it was the worst possible scenario that could exist. My first history and physical was on a physician. And so I took my brand new, unused doctor's bag and my shiny new equipment, and I donned my starched white coat, and I entered the room, and I said, good afternoon. I am student Dr. Wallace, and I am here to do your history and physical. And this kind elderly woman said, excellent, come on in. So I began to take the history, and I asked her about medical issues, her family issues, and I began what is called the review of systems. Have you had cardiac problems in the past? No. Have you had respiratory problems in the past? No. Urinary problems? No. And I got to the double ENT system, and I asked her, had she ever had issues with her eyes, her ears, her nose, or her throat? At which point she says to me, yes, I had an enucleation. And I said, Now, I must confess, I had no idea what an enucleation was. But I wrote it down in her history as if I had spent my whole day intimately familiar with enucleations. I then went on to do my physical examination, knowing that I would look up enucleation that night and be sure that I knew all about it the next day. So I examined her heart and her lungs and her abdomen, and I begin with the double ENT system. I look into her first eye, pupil dilates, good ocular motions, eye grounds are clear. And I begin to look into her second eye, and I cannot see a darn thing. And she says to me, student Dr. Wallace, I have had an enucleation. And I said, yes, ma'am, I wrote it down in your history. And I continue fussing with my ophthalmoscope, trying to see something in her eye. and she says, "Student Dr. Wallace, do you know what an enucleation is?" And now I realize at this point that I'm caught. And so I said, "No, ma'am, but I'm going to look it up tonight." And she says, "An enucleation means that my eyeball has been removed and you are currently attempting to look into my glass eye." At that moment, I learned humility, and I learned the wonderful lesson that sometimes you have to laugh at yourself. The end of the story is that this wonderful teacher then removed her glass eyeball and allowed me to examine the socket where it sat, something that I had never done before and have never done since on any other patient. And so too did I learn that failure always presents opportunities to learn things that you did not necessarily set out to learn. The second story occurred when I was in private medical practice, and as a family practitioner, I had the privilege and the honor and the joy of delivering many babies. I thank God that those deliveries were all successful and that the children were all healthy, and that years later, I still receive pictures of these children as they share with me their own children at this point. But I will never forget the one day that I delivered a baby of a woman whose name was Susan. Susan had been in labor for a long time, and she was working hard to push out her child. And finally, she delivered a bruiser of a baby boy who was blue. I remember taking the child and trying to stimulate him and to get him to breathe to no avail. And so I called a code blue, which is the code phrase for a hospital crisis when a patient's heart is not beating. And an intern and a nurse and a respiratory therapist arrived. I asked for the suction to clean out the mouth of the child, and the respiratory therapist tells me that the wall suction is not working. I asked for the oxygen to deliver to this blue baby, and the nurse advises me that the oxygen is not flowing. In the background, I hear the mother's concerned inquiries as she sees her beautiful baby boy listless in the baby warmer that too was not working. And I hear the intern telling me that the electricity in the entire wall is not working. I hear the respiratory therapist telling me that she does not think that the manual bagging of the child is working. And to this day, I do not know why I did what I did next. But I picked that child up, taking him away from the nurse who was performing CPR and the respiratory therapist who was bagging this child, and I held him upside down in the crook of my arm. And I went inside of me to that place where I know that Elaine and God meet, and I said, "I need help." I could hear the people around me becoming more frantic, and I could feel the listlessness of this child on my arm, and I said again, "I need help." And in that moment, I still vividly remember the feel of the electric shock that shot down my arm, and that beautiful baby opened his eyes and looked at me, and I looked at him, and he took his first breath, and his life began. At that moment, I knew that what had just occurred was the most courageous thing that I had ever done in my life, and it remains so until this day. In that moment, I had the courage to have faith at a time when things seemed hopeless. I handed that magical little child into the arms of his grateful mother, and I left the room and I wept in thanks. And since that day I was, and I have ever remained, inspired by the wonders of life. Finally, I will tell you the very last story. And I must thank you, the class of 2015, for allowing me to learn this story, because I learned this lesson just this week. I was preparing this speech and I was pondering what I could tell you about me and where I got to where I am in an honored and prestigious position as the Dean of a College of Medicine. And I was sorting through my experiences of my life. Other than my parents, I have always held that of all the things that have shaped me most in my life, being a Girl Scout and being a goalie in field hockey were the two things that were most important to me. As a Girl Scout, I learned patriotism, and it taught me about public speaking, and it taught me community service. It also taught me the lessons of trying new things and how mastery of those tasks gets you these cool little badges that you can sew onto your sash. Being a goalie taught me about the responsibility of doing my job. When one is a goalie, one is acutely aware that if you do not do your job, the other team will score a goal and your team will surely lose. It is a tremendous weight on the shoulders of any athlete, and it is perhaps the loneliest position on any sports team. But I loved being a goalie. I played goalie in junior high school and in high school and in college, and I played goalie on the state of New Jersey's team, and I was good. And I still remember the feeling of sitting back there in the goal, watching the ball, watching the game, and knowing that the last line of defense was me. If I failed, the team failed. And I took this lesson with me in my life as a doctor, protecting my patients with the same fervor. And I have taken this lesson with me throughout my career. I have been a dean now for over 20 years, and I've always carried with me this same ethic, this same driving force, and this same loneliness. I was cloaked in this ethic as I assumed the deanship of the College of Osteopathic Medicine here at Nova Southeastern earlier this year. But as I prepared for this speech and I reviewed the ethic that I have carried my entire career, the ethic that has inspired me to achieve great successes based solely on my hard work, I realized for the first time in my professional career that it was no longer true. You see, I have had the wonderful opportunity as dean to name my inner circle of assistant and associate deans who support me every day in what I do for and at the College of Osteopathic Medicine. And this circle of deans has my back. And I know that they are there for me, and they would take a hit for me, and they are unwaveringly loyal and competent. And just this week, for the first time in my professional life, I realized that I was no longer alone in protecting the goal. Just this week, I have learned the freedom that came when you realize that you are surrounded in your work by people who trust you and whom you trust, people who love you and who share your vision and your dreams. And I cannot tell you the weight that has been removed from my shoulders in that realization. And so I thank you, because in preparation of this commencement speech, it made me realize this great new blessing that I now have. And so to you, the class of 2015, as you shut the door on your college years and you open the door to the next chapter of opportunities in your lives, Elaine Wallace implores you to surround yourself with wonderful people who support you and hold on to them tightly. Be excited and be inspired by life. Have humility and be kind. Laugh heartily. Be courageous and have faith. Learn from your failures. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Live with integrity. Laugh deeply. Love deeply and be happy. And do your best every day so that you have no regrets when you put your head on your pillow every night. Do not sweat the small stuff and eat pizza on Fridays. Class of 2015, go forth and enjoy the exciting journey that you are about to have as an NSU graduate. But let me finish in telling you, you need to forever know that you are now part of the lifeblood that runs in the veins of Nova Southeastern University, and you are now and you will always be part of this great university's history and of its passion. And in the final words of that great orator, Sean P. Diddy, today is about the power of you. You will change the world. Can't stop, won't stop, because there ain't no party like a Diddy party. Go Sharks.